Craig. This is where manga comes to talk. If you're new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe. And those of you that are already subbed, welcome to you too. Okay, President Trump in his Mideast policy is the first new take on Middle Eastern peace that I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I just saw a story that's been widely reported. It's in the New York Post, the Gateway Pundit, and all over the place. And it's all over X, that the United States sent, because of President Trump is the United States, that President Trump of the United States sent all this aid to Gaza. And the story has trickled out in dribs and drabs about this humanitarian Gazians. And first, they were shocked that the U.S. aid was free, because apparently all that Hamas and relief, whatever that is, they make them pay for. So they were at first shocked that the humanitarian aid from the United States and President Trump was free. And then Hamas was trying to block the Gazians from getting the aid because they want to steal it for themselves, and don't want the U.S. to be given credit for anything good. But they got to the aid. The Gazians got to the aid, and they were chanting Trump, 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 Trump. And, all these people like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, who were sitting here in Florida with their feet up. I'm in Florida, I'm in a Hawaiian shirt, but I'm not trying to send other people off to war. So while Ben Shapiro's sitting here in Florida, Mark Levin's sitting on the beach in Florida. Let's go to war. Let's go to war. Let's bomb them. I'll be on the beach watching on TV, but these other people can go to war and start World War III. A bunch of yellow cowards, okay? President Trump is working on a Mideast peace plan in a way that it's never been tried before. All the other presidents, all of them, and it's been going on since there was in Israel, have been having meetings and summit meetings and meeting here and meeting there and the Dayton Accords and all this bullshit. And none of it works. It just keeps the cycle of death going. The names of the players change. Where the actual attacks are happening changes a little bit. Like, remember when Clinton was president, was the suicide vest area with the era, and all of that. And President Trump is making friends to show them we're not bad guys. He's killing them with kindness, whether it's the aid to Gaza, whether it's meeting with this former terrorist that runs Syria, or accepting the gift to the United States of the jet from Qatar. I got a sneeze coming on. Hold on. Thank you for the bless yous. And these warmongers like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, who are calling to bomb Iran, easy for them to say, when it erupts in World War III, where are they going to be? They're going to be here in Florida still, like me. And President Trump, if it doesn't work, they'll take it to another level, But don't you think we should give peace a chance? I think it's amazing what President Trump is doing. Remember the Palestinians were celebrating when the buildings were collapsing on 9/11? Now they're chanting the name of the president and thanking the president of the United States. Right? So we're in a whole nother era now with President Trump, and it's pretty awesome. You got to admit. You got to admit, it's absolutely amazing. I'm heading somewhere, obviously, in the car, and right before I left, I was reading this article in the New York Post about the chance. This is amazing. And, see, all of these countries in the Middle East that Trump is making friends with, they've got a lot of juice with Iran. They really, truly do. And that helps a lot. And Hamas, one of the things Hamas has done over the decades is to the Palestinian people, they've been brainwashing the Palestinian people about Israel, about the United States. And Hamas has tried to portray themselves as a humanitarian organization, right? Giving aid and food and medical aid and housing and all of these things. And, you know, they operate like the Democrats, right? They give them all these things and make the people dependent upon them, and they think they're good guys, but they're really evildoers. And what President Trump is doing is very smart. Now, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But these warmongers, you know, I was talking this morning, Mark Dice had an incredible video yesterday. It's the one, when I say, it was Friday. It's Mark Dice's video on Friday. It has Ben Shapiro in the thumbnail, but he showed a clip of Tim Pool. I talked about this on the stream early this morning. Mark Dice showed a clip of Tim Pool, and Tim Pool was talking about this. He was one of a group of influencers that was invited by Israel to some special meeting that Netanyahu was at, and they were trying to sell these influencers on the idea that it's a good thing to bomb Iran. And, you know, I don't know who the other ones were because Tim Pool didn't tell us, but, you know, if Tim Pool thinks that Netanyahu is interested in what he or these influencers have to say and are seeking their counsel, they're out of their freaking minds. They're manipulating them to get them to publicly talk about bombing Iran. Now, I am a supporter of Israel's right to exist. I'm a strong supporter of Israel. But I think we should try a tactic other than starting the third freaking world war with Iran. And that's why President Trump told Netanyahu no. And he's been public about it because President Trump didn't want Netanyahu to go and bomb Iran and make it look like President Trump approved of it. He wanted the world to know that he and the United States do not support bombing Iran. And he's got all these things going on over there in the Middle East, and it's absolutely amazing. What do you call these guys that want everybody they want to start wars that they don't go to, like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin? Is it chicken hawk? I think it's a chicken hawk, right? Or is there another term? But I think chicken hawk is the word that I was searching for. Welcome, everyone. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. It's a beautiful day in Florida. A little cloudy and rainy, but it's always nice in Florida. I'm in a high traffic merge area, so I have to pay attention to the road. But all these summit meetings and everything that happened in the past, they've resulted in nothing. Short-term ceasefires and then another powder keg. President Trump, his whole life has been anti-war. I bet you, if 9/11 happened when President Trump was president, remember Afghanistan wouldn't turn bin Laden over to Bush. Now, Bush didn't want them to turn bin Laden over because he wanted to have a long-term war to feed the military-industrial complex that feed him and Dick Cheney's family with millions of dollars so they don't have to worry about money ever again. But if 9/11 happened with President Trump in office, I bet you Afghanistan would have turned over bin Laden and all of Al-Qaeda. They wouldn't dare mess with Trump. I mean, remember that Israeli hostage in that interview this past week said that Hamas is afraid of Trump, that they were hoping, they wanted Kamala to win, and they started treating him better after Trump won because Hamas is afraid. For Hamas to be afraid of Trump, that's crazy scared. I mean, those guys they're barbarians. So if the barbarians of Hamas are terrified of Trump, that means the rest of the Middle East, they take him very serious too. That's amazing. They know he doesn't play. It's pretty awesome. Absolutely. Let me ask you guys, yes or no? Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, is chicken hawk the right word? People that are pushing for people to go to war and they're not going? Is that chicken hawk? Yes or no? Is there another word? I'm not sure, but I think chicken hawk is the proper word. This guy in front of me. The one thing about Florida is we have a lot of tourists here, and they never know where they're going. They're always lost. You could tell a tourist a mile away by their driving, especially when you're merging. There we go. Pass. Welcome to my channel, everyone. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. So give me a yes or no on this one, too. Do you think Trump and his media's peace plan is a brilliant idea, yes or no? I say yes. You know, when you get down to it, this is true, not in every instance. You know, there's always exceptions. But for the most part, the people of different countries don't have much of a beef with one another. It's the governments that start all this crap. I wonder when President Trump unveils the new Air Force One, the gift to the United States from Qatar, if the I don't know what are the leaders of Qatar? I don't know. Are they princes, king? I don't know what they are. But do you think that the leaders of Qatar will come over here for that? I bet they will. Be pretty cool. Did the French send a delegation when the Statue of Liberty was opened up in New York? I bet they did. Well, awesome. Thank you there. I mean, what do you got to lose? I mean, you know, if what President Trump does stops the death and destruction and the fighting stops, how could you be against that? Now, Russia and Ukraine is another story. President Trump said they have negotiations going on and we'll know in 2 weeks whether or not Putin's serious or not. It's interesting that he's putting all the weight on Putin, not Zelensky now. So it looks like they've gotten Zelensky under control, at least for now. But Marco Rubio, I've heard Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance both say that they'll pull out of the whole thing. If they're not serious about peace with Russia and Ukraine, if they're not serious, they'll pull out. They'll walk away. It's got to be done. I mean, President Trump already stopped the war between India and Pakistan, and it was real simple. It was all over money. He said it yesterday in the press conference with Elon Musk in the Oval Office. President Trump, he said, we can't do trade with your countries while you're at war. And that was it. Both countries agreed to end that fighting instantly, on a dime. No, he knows exactly what he's doing. And, you know, when it boils down to it, you know, most of these, there are always exceptions, like Putin's out of his freaking mind right now, but most of these leaders around the world, they care about two things: money and power, right? Remember Gangster Paradise? It's all about the money, all about the power. And President Trump knows that. These business dealings that he's doing, it's better than sending in tanks and soldiers and Marines and fighters. This guy's swerving all over the dang highway. Why do you think that this was actually, I was surprised that the Israeli hostage said this in that interview. It was really interesting. Why do you think Hamas is so terrified of President Trump? You know, I think it's pretty obvious. He'll bomb them out of existence if they don't do what he wants them to do, which is the right thing. He's not asking anything that's unreasonable from any of these countries or people or organizations or whatever. I mean, if you're scared, if these Hamas barbarians are afraid of him, that's a tough cookie.